Have you ever just hit a wall? Like physically, mentally, emotionally, you are completely tapped out. You feel like you absolutely cannot take one more step, read one more page, or deal with even a single other problem. Well, what if I told you that feeling of absolute total exhaustion was actually a massive lie? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the wild psychology of false fatigue. We're going to explore a powerful mental framework that proves, without a doubt, you've got way more in the tank than your brain is letting on. It's a pretty profound question when you sit and think about it. Why exactly do we quit when we still have fuel left in the tank? Think about the everyday stuff we all go through. You're failing a brutal class, you're buried under stress at work, or maybe you're just navigating some really complex relationship issues. Or, hey, maybe you're just incredibly frustrated because you're learning a new skill and it's not clicking fast enough. In those moments, poof, motivation evaporates. Our own brains actively sabotage us and convince us to just throw in the towel. But why on earth does our mind turn against our own goals like that? Well, here's the secret. Giving up is rarely about hitting a true, hard, physical or intellectual limit. Actually, it's a mental resistance born from your brain's evolutionary wiring. Your mind has this deep desire to avoid uncomfortable situations. It wants you safe, cozy, on the couch, and totally unchallenged. So it builds what we call a self-preservation trap. It literally manufactures feelings of intense fatigue and doubt way before your actual reserves are empty. When your brain is screaming at you to call it a day, it's really just dodging the friction of growth. To see how this translates into the real world, we can look at a guy who is basically a walking clinical case study in extreme human toughness, retired Navy SEAL David Goggins. Goggins is widely considered one of the toughest men alive. I mean, the guy is a former Guinness World Record holder for cranking out over 4,000 pull-ups in just 17 hours. He's also done over 60 ultramarathons and triathlons, and the craziest part, he wasn't born with some superhero genetics. He pulled all of this off by mastering a very specific psychological tool to bypass that self-preservation trap. Section 1. The Impossible Goal, Running Badwater 135. To really get this tool, you have to hear about the time Goggins signed up for a 24-hour, 100-mile qualifying race to raise money for fallen Special Ops soldiers. Oh, and he had zero preparation and only 3 days' notice. By mile 1, he's totally fine, just coasting on his baseline military fitness. But hit mile 25, the reality sets in, and his brain starts questioning everything. He still has 3 marathons left to run. By mile 50, the pain is unimaginable. His thighs are like lead blocks. Every tiny rotation of his ankle literally feels like shock therapy. No speed, no style, but he just keeps moving. That is, until he hits the wall at mile 70. At mile 70, the physical toll becomes absolute. He is a completely broken man. Exhausted from running 70 miles on zero training, he just collapses, sits right down. This was rock bottom. He looks down and realizes he's urinating blood. He's lost control of his bowels. His feet are this bloody, mangled mess of torn blisters. His body is entirely failing him. It is one of the lowest, most utterly defeated points of his entire life. Sitting there in the dirt, in pure agony, the psychological battle hits its absolute peak. His mind is just screaming this at him. Why are you still doing this to yourself? The trap had fully snapped shut. Logically, his brain is making a great point. It's reminding him, hey, you should have quit 5 hours ago. The pain is too much. You obviously didn't prep for this. The rational choice here is to surrender. So pause for a second and think about this. How do you take another step when your body has entirely shut down? When you are bleeding out, completely exhausted, and your own brain is begging you to stop? Where does the energy come from to just stand back up? This is that exact moment where standard motivation totally fails, and something much deeper has to take the wheel. The secret mental framework he used to survive that exact moment is called the cookie jar. Basically, it's a psychological repository of your past achievements and overcome failures, used to fuel your future success. Sitting there in despair, Goggins realized this wasn't the first time he had faced down an impossible task. So he started to mentally reach into his past to pull out hard evidence of his own resilience. Here's the exact mechanism of how this cookie jar works in practice. First, you dig deep into your past and you remember the obstacles you've crushed. Second, and this is the absolute key, you tap into the precise emotional state you felt during those victories. You don't just casually remember it, you feel the triumph in your bones all over again. For Goggins, remembering what he had already overcome sparked this sudden surge of energy. It gave him just enough to stand up on those blistered, bloody feet and execute step 3, walk. just step by agonizing step. Drawing his energy entirely from the emotional currency of his past, he actually sustained himself through that final stretch. He kept digging into the jar over and over, letting the memory of past suffering and ultimate victory fuel his present reality. And, incredibly, it gave him exactly enough drive to hit the impossible 100-mile mark and qualify for the race. He proved that even when the tank reads flat zero, the mind can unlock hidden reserves if you feed it the right evidence. Section 2. Building your inventory and applying it to everyday life. Now look, you probably aren't aiming to run a 100-mile race on zero notice, and that's totally fine, because your cookies don't have to be world records or massive athletic feats. A cookie can be overcoming crippling shyness, or battling through a dark period of depression, mastering a fear of heights. Honestly, getting up to do the dishes or taking out the trash when you're completely drained? Congratulations, that is a cookie. Even if you feel totally beat down by life right now, you have tasted success. You've done things when you didn't feel like it. Those are your cookies. But right here, we really need to introduce a critical psychological caveat. Because as we talk about pushing past limits, we absolutely have to ask, is pushing through pain always the right answer? Should we just blindly ignore our mind every single time it tells us to stop studying or stop working or stop running? The crucial point here is understanding the massive difference between mental resistance, where your mind simply wants comfort and tries to trick you into quitting, and a true physical shutdown, where your biological system is actually failing. Your mind will definitely lie to you to keep you comfortable, but when your body genuinely starts shutting down, that is not a lie. You have to learn to distinguish between the friction of growth and the danger of real failure. You have to establish a limit. As the saying goes, rest is actually productive. We are simply not wired to go 24/7. Ignoring glaring medical signs, like bloody urine dripping down your leg, is frankly a terrible idea for your long-term health. You need to have a threshold where once you pass it, you intelligently call it a day so you can recover and fight tomorrow. But for the 99% of everyday situations where it's just your mind being a little weak, you now have a highly actionable tool. When you face that mental resistance, when you want to abandon a boring study session, or give up on that side hustle, or skip the gym just because it's raining, that is exactly when you rely on this method. You dunk your fist in the jar, you pull out a memory, you let it fuel you, and you get back to work. Now, digging into the cookie jar is incredibly hard at first. Your mind really doesn't want you to go there. It just wants to remind you that you're suffering. But if you consistently use this method, you will slowly and fundamentally transform how your brain perceives limits. By repeatedly leaning on past successes, you build lasting mental toughness. That huge, scary word, impossible, gets completely rewritten in your brain as, I can do this. You rewire your default response to adversity. So I want you to look back at your own life right now. Look at the hurdles you've cleared, those silent battles you won when nobody else was watching. What past pain will you use as currency to buy your future success? Stop letting your mind give up on you. Stock your cookie jar and use it to become better than you were yesterday.